Hey everyone, quick thing before we even start. This was an episode I was never going to write. Velcro and Burrs. It's probably the best well-known biomimicry example out there. And with Feral, I'm trying to unearth less obvious stories. But nature has driven me totally insane over the last couple of weeks here with these damn Burrs. So here we are. On y va. Have you ever spent an hour on your kitchen floor or somewhere pulling tiny burrs out of your dog's fur while questioning your life choices? Try it sometime. Those annoying little bastards that latch onto everything. That's the burrs, not the dogs. They accidentally sparked one of the most successful biomimicry stories in history. By the end of this episode, you'll never look at Velcro the same way. And you'll understand why sometimes the best ideas come from stuff that pisses you off the most. It's spring here in Australia, which means two things. Everything's blooming, and the council has apparently forgotten nature strips exist. For those who aren't in Australia, nature strips are what we call the grassy verge between the footpath and the road. My dog is young, so picture energy, working dog, long-haired, and somehow he has this sixth sense for finding every single overgrown patch of burrs in our neighbourhood. One walk past an untrimmed nature strip, of which we have many, and suddenly it's like he's wearing nature's version of fairy lights. And he gets them on him a hell of a lot faster than I can ever put up fairy lights. Let me tell you that. Anyway, I'm the one who ends up paying the price. Sitting on the floor, fingers cramping, pulling burr after burr out of his fur. I'll post a photographic proof of life of the little man on the socials, and you'll see what I mean. Those little hooks grab everything, and they don't let go. They're relentless. And the workflow is pinch, pull, part, growl, repeat. And the whole time I'm thinking, what is the point of you? Why do you exist? This time I'm talking about burrs and dog. Let's talk about burrs. Those round, prickly seed pods covered in hundreds of tiny hooks. The function that they're solving? Seed dispersal. The plant can't move, so it makes its seeds hitch a ride on absolutely anything passing by. Here's the genius. Each burr is covered in these tiny curved hooks with bent tips. These hooks catch on loops in fabric or fur. They hold like their life depends on it. Because it does. That's the whole point. The clever bit? They're not barbed, so they don't stab in, they just hook and hang on. Eventually, with enough force or swearing, they release, sometimes taking a loop or two of fabric with them. Now, this burrs versus humans struggle, it's been going on for centuries, but unlike the rest of us who just curse and pull, one guy saw an opportunity. Meet George de Mestral, 1941, Swiss Alps. Hi George, you little legend you. Picture this. He's a Swiss electrical engineer in his mid-30s, out for a hunting trip with his Irish pointer dog. Knee-high wool socks pulled up tight because it's 1941 and that's what you wear. Crisp alpine air, dog bounding through the undergrowth, doing dog things. It's idyllic. It's very Sound of Music. And then they get home. George looks down, his woolen pants covered in burrs from the burdock plants. His socks, his jacket, more burrs, and the poor Irish pointer looks more plant than dog, fur matted with these sticky little things. Most people would curse, pull them off, throw them in the bin and move on with their lives. George did something different. He got curious. He took a few burrs, stuck them under a microscope and really looked. What he saw? Hundreds of tiny little hooks with curved tips that caught onto the loops in his wool fabric and on his pooch's fur. And here's what clicked for George. This wasn't random. This was a mechanism. Hook meets loop. They attach. Pull them apart. They release. Simples. Repeatable. And George thought, what if I could actually manufacture this? It took him over a decade to figure it out. First challenge. Making millions of tiny hooks. He needed something that could hold a hook shape and be woven into fabric. He toured fabric manufacturing plants across Europe. The first 6 companies laughed him out of the building. A fastener based on plant burrs? Who'd buy that? Finally, he found a manufacturer in Lyon in France. Through trial and error, they discovered that nylon, heated and cut just right, would hold the hook shape. Flexible enough to separate when you pulled them, firm enough to hold. In 1955, he took out the patent. He called it Velcro, from velour, French for velvet, and crochet, which is French for hook. Can you tell I'm a pub trivia person? I'm like, that's a great question. He took out a $150,000 loan. Here's what I absolutely love about this story. He started manufacturing and nobody wanted it. Clothing manufacturers shied away. It looked really cheap and ugly. It looked like leftover fabric scraps. The fashion industry weren't in the least bit interested. Those European manufacturers who'd laughed him out of the building, probably feeling pretty smug at this point. Then NASA came along. In the early 1960s, NASA realised Velcro was perfect for spacesuits, space boots and equipment. In zero gravity, zippers jam, buttons are fiddly with gloves on, but Velcro just works. Suddenly, George's annoying plant-inspired fastener wasn't an oddity, it was space age. It was cool. French fashion designer Pierre Cardin became obsessed with it in his futuristic mid-60s collections. Other designers followed, and high fashion met hook and loop. Together, they transformed a utilitarian product into pop culture. NASA made it functional, fashion made it famous. And then, July 20, 1969, George's invention made its ultimate journey. It went to the moon. Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin walked on the lunar surface with Velcro on their spacesuit boots, holding their watches in place, keeping their equipment from floating away on the lunar module, looking back down at Earth at all those naysayers. Reach for the stars, they say. George de Mestral did. His sticky little plant-inspired fastener made it to the Sea of Tranquility and the catwalks of Paris. Boom! George's invention was officially a hit. This is such a great example of close-to-form biomimicry. George literally mimicked the shape and mechanism of the Burrs hooks, not just the vibe or the metaphor, the actual structure. So where is Velcro now? It's on your walls, behind frames and mirrors. It helps take your blood pressure. It saves your sanity with a 4-year-old who's not quite ready for laces yet. Sports gear, car interiors, and no doubt a few last-minute dropped hems in wardrobes around the world. It's everywhere now. Hundreds of millions in revenue annually. And yes, it's still in space. All because one guy with a microscope and a curious mind and knee-high socks looked at an annoying plant seed and thought, what if I actually paid real attention to this? Here's what George did that most of us don't. He didn't just curse the Burrs, he got curious. And that's the discipline. That thing biomimicry practitioners call quieting your intelligence, long enough to actually observe. You're not looking for what you want to see, but you're looking at what's actually there. Those hooks weren't a bug or a flaw, they were a feature, a 3.8 billion-year-old design solution, just sitting there, waiting for someone to notice. But here's the thing. George mimicked the form brilliantly. He literally copied the hook and loop structure, but he didn't mimic nature's full system. Burrs are biodegradable. They break down. They're made from materials that go back into the soil, feed the ecosystem, etc. The original, the OG, Velcro fastener, it's made from nylon, a petroleum-based plastic, and at the end of its life, it can sit in landfill for decades. It doesn't biodegrade easily, and full recycling is tricky because of the mix of the materials. And that's the gap. To be fair, the company that now owns Velcro has been working on that. They've launched an eco line made with 30 to 70% recycled content, and a few other manufacturers are experimenting with hook and loop made from ocean-recovered plastics and bio-based materials. At its best, biomimicry doesn't just mimic the mechanism, it mimics the whole ecosystem strategy, form, function, and life cycle. George got us halfway there. The next generation, they're working on the rest. So next time you're pulling burrs off anything, take a second to appreciate what you're holding. Those annoying little hooks, they changed the world, and they did it by being simple and stupidly effective. Maybe that's what good design does. It hooks onto something real. It holds on just tight enough, and it knows when to let go. And if I've done my job right with this episode, maybe it has hooked onto you too. Thanks, Burrs, for the sticky genius. Now, I've been told manifesting works for some people. I find inception works better. So on that note, counsel, if you're listening, nature owns the patent. George got to copy it.